In this video, I'm going to be talking about my own personal silver hair journey. Hi, I'm Lynn, and I inspire women to go naturally silver and to embrace the best parts of themselves. I finally made the tough decision to ditch the dye in February of 2020. It was just before the whole lockdown thing happened. So I kind of consider myself a COVID silver sister, if you will, because most of the early difficult part of my journey actually happened during lockdowns, when a lot of women were sort of forced to ditch the dye. If you remember, just 3 years ago, hair salons were closed. You couldn't even find box dye. It was like there was this hair dye shortage. A lot of women during that time were forced to see what they actually had going on underneath all the hair color because they couldn't get it dyed. So even though COVID itself didn't force me to make the decision to ditch the dye, I just happened to make that decision and ditch the dye right around the time that a lot of other women were having to do it. And of course, it wasn't until March when basically everybody was locking down and nobody was getting their hair colored at that point. I say this in a lot of my videos, that it's that period before you actually ditch the dye that I think is one of the hardest parts of this journey, because you're having to have a reckoning with yourself. You're realizing, that you're tired of the upkeep, you're tired of the roots showing, you're tired of running away from certain lighting that's gonna reveal those glimmers of silver popping through. You're sick of having your picture taken with the top of your head cut off because you're trying to hide those roots, if you even let somebody take your picture at all, if any of your gray is showing. Strategically parting your hair so that it doesn't look obvious. All of those things are exhausting. And you're sort of back and forth between wanting to do it and then, oh my gosh, what are people gonna think if I actually do this? You have that back and forth period for a while. I know that I did, where you're just kind of wondering, should I really do this? What are people gonna think? How do I do it? I don't know anybody else that's doing this. And so it's not easy. I don't know at what point for me where I finally just made the decision that I was done. I was done. I just wanted to do it and I made that choice. And I did want to do it for a while before I actually dove in and committed to it. I know a lot of women who maybe went about 3 months or so ditching the dye and then caving in and coloring it again and maybe repeating this process several times. And that wasn't the case for me. When I decided and I just stopped. Now, I always had this silver streak in the front of my hair, and so for a long time I thought about just letting that grow in. And back then, I didn't know anything about techniques to camouflage your grow out, like say maybe the dye strip technique, where you just keep dyeing a portion of your hair right around your part on one side, and you flip that over and it looks like you're still dyeing your hair, but underneath you're growing out your silver. And then one day you just flip it over to the other side and you have silver, and then you grow out that dye strip. I didn't know anything about any of that. But like I said, I did think about growing out this little silver streak because I was just curious about this little money piece that I had. But I ended up not doing it that way. I pretty much ended up just letting everything just start growing. And I think the ultimate thing that helped me make my decision was when I saw a picture of myself with my dyed hair, and it literally looked like I had colored my hair with a Sharpie pen, like a black Sharpie, just no dimension to it whatsoever. And I thought, wow, this really isn't a good look. And before that, I had been highlighting my hair, so I had multi-dimensional hair color, but I didn't like the way that the bleach was frying my hair. It was causing split ends. It was very unhealthy. It was making me very self-conscious. But I liked keeping my hair long, so I got rid of the highlighting and ended up going with the single process color to color the grays, because I wanted to keep my hair long and I didn't want all those split ends. So I was using this single process color over my hair, and it looked like shoe polish. My hair was definitely healthier when I stopped bleaching it, but I was still putting on this very dark hair dye, and then any of the grays that were popping up were becoming even more obvious than when I was highlighting it, because there was more of a stark contrast. It just, I don't know, it was just one of those moments where I saw that picture of myself and I took a look. Have you ever had that happen where you look at yourself and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's not a good look for me and I think I'm done? That's what happened. It was like this aha moment where I just said, enough. I originally committed to 6 months of growing out my hair, and I think this is what really helped me stick with it the most. So that would have put me to August of 2020. I thought to myself, if I'm growing it out for 6 months and at the end of 6 months I don't like it, I'm just gonna dye it again, if I could find hair dye or a hairstylist at that point. nobody knew what was going on back then. I put that on my mental calendar and I said to myself, listen, if I can do this for 6 months, I'll do it for 6 months and then I'll revisit it and I'll see what happens at that point. And I'll just dye it again if I don't like it. And so that's what I did. And having that end goal helped me realize that I don't have to commit to the whole grow out, especially if I don't like it or I hate it and I feel very ugly in it, or I feel like I look old with it, whatever it is, then I'm not gonna do it. And that really helped. So there I am in my 6-month window and I'm just trudging along, growing it out. And what nobody really talks about when you start to grow out your gray hair and you stop dyeing your hair, the dyed ends of your hair start to turn very orange and very brassy, especially if you were dyeing them a dark color. So these ends of my hair that were getting really brassy was probably the thing that was bothering me more than the roots showing at this point in my journey. And this is where I discovered blue shampoo, and I'll link a video below where I talk about blue shampoo and the purpose of it. But basically it's because that your hair is gonna start to turn orange because you're no longer putting hair dye into the hair. Now, when you dye your hair gets lifted, the color gets lifted out of your hair, cuticle gets roughened up, and then hair dye molecules are deposited into the hair. When you're no longer putting hair dye in your hair, all you have now is that lifted color and that roughened cuticle. And to me, it just really, really bothered me. When you stop depositing hair color onto your hair shaft, when you stop dyeing it, it will eventually take on this orange brassy color. All you see is the lifted hair. It's not a good look. It's especially not a good look up against gray hair coming in. That really bothered me more than the gray roots bothered me. The brassy ends of my hair were bothering me. So I tried several things to mitigate that. One of the things that I did, I used Overtone Extreme Silver just on the ends of my hair. That was fantastic. I have a short video that I can link down below as well that shows how I applied that to my hair during that time. But that really got me through. That and blue shampoo. So I just painted that overtone using a highlighting brush on the ends of my hair and left it on for like 30 minutes, washed it out, and it actually helped tone out that orange brassiness. I kept getting little trims here and there, but I didn't want to cut a lot of the length off of my hair or change the style very much because I felt as though I could only handle so much at one time. So I've had long hair for a long time, and I thought if I go with a drastic haircut in addition to growing out my silver hair, my salt and pepper hair, and then I had this brassy end thing going on, I'm gonna be miserable. So I decided just to take it one step at a time, and I'm just gonna grow out my hair and I'm just gonna minuscule trim it little by little with what I was comfortable with. So I kept the length, I kept doing what I was doing, and just slowly and surely the gray hair started to come in. I made it to the 6-month mark, and at 6 months I looked at it and I said, it's not horrible. I got used to having the 2 different colors coming in plus the brassiness and dealing with that. And I thought to myself, you know, why would I get to this point and then just dye it again and then maybe a year later try this whole process again? So I ended up sticking with it at that point. And I thought, you know, let me keep going. Now, mind you, I ended up having a lot less silver than I thought I did. Most of my silver is concentrated towards the front and in my face. So when I'm looking in the mirror, I thought I had a lot of silver, but as it started to come in, I thought, wow, I really don't have as much as I thought I did. So what's very interesting about this is it does take about that long for you to see exactly what kind of pattern you have going on. You may think it's gonna look one way and then you start growing it in and it's complete surprise. I thought I'm gonna have this whole head of silver hair. It ended up looking more like silver highlights. Actually, it looks more like the highlights that I was paying a lot of money to put into my hair. That's kind of the pattern that I have. And I was worried about that because, you know, salt and pepper, I didn't know how I was gonna feel about that look because I was looking at a lot of women who had white hair and beautiful gray hair, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know about long salt and pepper hair. I don't know if I'm gonna like that look. My hairdresser often told me I didn't have enough gray to go gray, and I started to see maybe why she had said that. Although I've decided that I have enough gray to go gray, and that's a decision that I made for myself. Nobody else can make that decision for you. But then I really started to look at it and I thought, wow, this looks kind of cool, and it's not as dark and Sharpie pen looking as it was when I was dyeing it, so let me keep going. But those ends of my hair were still really bothering me to the point that by October, so we're looking at about 8 months growing in, I did have it professionally color blended. I didn't go to that famous guy who's all over Instagram, all over the internet doing these amazing silver hair transformations. I just went to my hairdresser and I told her what I wanted to do. She was very supportive and we talked about it and we looked at my hair and she ended up just doing an amazing job. I told her, please do not cover over any of my coveted silver hair growth. As you know, if you're growing out your silver and it seems like it grows so fast when you're dyeing your hair, and then when you stop dyeing your hair, it seems like it takes forever to get those precious millimeters of hair growth. So she did a great job. She did have to overlap slightly, obviously, to blend it, but I thought it came out very good. So it solved some of that brassy problem, but as you know, if you use toner on your hair, it does not last very long. So eventually that toner did wash out. And again, I was left with lifted hair on the ends of my hair, and I just ended up committing to using the Overtone and the blue shampoo for the remainder of the grow out or until it's just stopped bothering me. And eventually it will stop bothering you. When the brassiness started to come back, I just started using the blue shampoo only on the ends of my hair. You don't want to use blue shampoo on your silver, but remember, opposite colors cancel each other out on the color wheel, and that's why we use blue to counteract and neutralize orange tones in hair, and that's what orange is brassy hair. And so that's why you're going to use blue if you want to cancel that out. The reason that we don't use blue on silver hair is silver tends to take on yellow tones. That would be purple. Opposite colors neutralize each other on the color wheel. And occasionally I would just need a little boost, so I would do the Overtone Extreme Silver on the ends of my hair again. But for the most part, at that point, it started to become smooth sailing. For me, that color blending, it helped me get rid of my obsession with that brassiness, and it helped me have the confidence to continue on my journey. And I knew then that, okay, for me, this looks okay, and I'm okay, and I can keep going. Now, for every woman, it's gonna be different. Some women just wanna rock that grand braid. They don't care about the brassiness, and they're just going for it cold turkey, and I think that's empowering. I think that's incredible. Other women, they cut their hair really short, and they can let that length go and go gray at the same time, and I think that's amazing. You're gonna have to figure out what works for you, what gives you the confidence to stick to it and to feel good about yourself, or as good about yourself as you can feel as you're going through this process. I chose to go this route because I just had to do what I felt comfortable with for me. If I was so self-conscious about those brassy ends, I might not have completed my journey. I don't know. Once I got to that point, I really wanted to see it through, because at that point, I really wanted to see what my complete grow out was actually gonna look like. I mean, I put in all that time. I really wanted to see it to the end. And then at that point, I could reassess. If I didn't like it, I would just dye it again. Keep in mind that if you're choosing to keep your hair long, you are probably looking at about 3 years of growing your hair out to completion. But also know that you're not going to hate it the entire time, because at some point, especially now, I'm over 3 years right now. I still have a little bit of dye. I don't even think you can see it on camera on the ends of my hair. And I'm just kind of still doing my method of trimming very, very infrequently, probably too infrequently, but I'm just doing my method of what's working for me, and eventually those ends are gonna be gone, and I might actually miss the grow out, believe it or not. If your hair is about shoulder length or a little bit shorter than that, then you're looking at about 2 years of growing it out. Remember that you are in this for the long haul, so if doing something like a color blending or dye strip technique or any other technique works for you, then do it. Kind of like giving birth with or without an epidural. You do you. And I don't have any regrets in doing it this way. Now, I will admit though that there are times when I do miss my dark hair. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I mean, if you subscribe to my channel, then you probably see me on here thinking, wow, she really loves her gray hair. She's obsessed with gray hair. But sometimes I do look back at some of the better pictures of myself with my dyed hair and I think, wow, I really miss that. And there's nothing like the feeling of a fresh hair color. I actually miss it in some ways. But I'm gonna tell you this, that all I have to do is remember what it took to keep that up, and I don't wanna go through that anymore. I don't wanna go back to that again. This is so freeing. I can pull my hair back and it's sparkling because it's supposed to sparkle, because my hair is silver. It doesn't look like, you know, like, oh my gosh, you didn't cover up that sparkle. you need to cover that up. It's supposed to be sparkling, and I love that. And I'm so much more confident with it. People ask me about it all the time, and I'm like, you should do it too. Just know that every woman's journey is gonna be different. Your journey is gonna be different than mine, and it's gonna be different from somebody else's. Don't compare yourself, just dive in and give it a try. Put a time limit on it. Give it about 6 months. Tell yourself you can always diet back and then go for it. And I'm here to support you, okay? So make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that I can support you along your silver journey. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.